What's going on, everybody? Cheers. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to this week's episode of With Her Two Hands, the podcast where every week I have the distinct honor of getting to sit down with another incredible tradeswoman and introduce you all to her to hear her story, her challenges, her struggles, her successes, and hopefully start normalizing this whole idea of women out working in the trades and showing off how many incredible women there are out there every day just grinding and making it happen and seeing lots of success within these industries that are so incredibly male dominated. My name is Bogi. I am your host. I am a master automotive technician by trade, but the series is all about celebrating women in all trades. So if you go back through all of the archives and past episodes, you'll see that we've had construction workers and plumbers and iron workers and welders and fabricators and you name it. If it's about building, fixing, and making things with your own two hands, we want to have her on this show and celebrate her and share her story with the world. So if you know somebody, or if you are somebody who is a woman working in the trades, definitely hit us up. Maybe we'll get you on an episode sometime soon. But we've got a really great episode lined up for you today. I'm very excited about tonight's guest, but I do have a couple of sponsors that I'd like to thank before we dive into things. So if you work in the trades, you know that having the right tools and the best continuing education and of course, a great contact list of resources in your phone is absolutely crucial. And every year at AAPEX, that is my go-to event to check all of those boxes. You discover the latest and greatest in tools and parts, and you get unparalleled networking in. It's America's largest automotive conference. It is in Vegas this year. It's October 31st through November 2nd. The seats are going to fill up fast. Of course, the rooms in Vegas fill up fast, so don't wait. Go get yourself registered now. I'm going to have a link in my description down below, so make sure you check that out. Or of course, you can just go to AAPEX on their website as well. And then speaking of education, because they do a ton of education at AAPEX, but all year round, you probably are familiar with ASE. You know that I am a huge proponent for getting all of the training, all of the certifications. It's especially crucial for women, but for both male and female industry professionals, it's so important. Certifications bring a really much needed element of professionalism and pride to the industry, and it shows your commitment to your trade, your craft, and your career. I've been a proud ASE Master certified technician for 15 years, and having that certification was definitely a big part of getting my foot in the door in the industry. And so you're probably familiar with ASE most for their certification and their Blue Seal Shop programs, but what you might not know is that they do a ton of work behind the scenes, kind of establishing standards throughout the industry, but also they have a ASE Education Foundation. And through that foundation, they do free online classes for students. They also help train all of the amazing technical trainers and teachers all across the country in trade schools and high schools and college programs all across the country. So for more information, you can go check them out on aseeducationfoundation.org. And in fact, tonight, our guest is not only an ASE Master Certified Technician, but she is also, she sits on the ASE Education Foundation board. So she's going to tell us a little bit about that experience as well. She has been in the industry for over 14 years. I don't know how she does it all. She's a senior Ford, I'm hoping I'm saying this right, senior Ford Master Technician. She is also ASE Master Technician. She's a transmission specialist. She sits on the board for the ASE Education Foundation, and she is a mom of two little ones. I don't know how she does it. She's in the midst of a big move right now, and she has amazingly made time to come spend this hour with us this evening. So I'm really thrilled to have her. So without further ado, enough of my rambling. Let's get Miss Jenny Kovacs on. All right. How do I add you? Why am I having an issue adding you? Come on, computer. There we go. All right. Finally. Hi. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Did I know we just talked about your last name before we got live. Did I pronounce it right? Is it Kovacs? Is that
Kovacs.
how you pronounce Kovacs?
It's
okay.
how, yeah, it's how we say
pronounce it the American way.
Right.
in Hungarian, CS is I believe. So it'd be
Oh, yeah,
Kovacs.
I'm sure that
Kovacs.
we
But
Americanized it for sure. Yeah.
that's okay. So my nickname is Hungarian. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah. So I have this like Hungarian connection. Jenny is not actually Hungarian, but her last name is Hungarian because her husband is. So I thought that was fun. But anyhow, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here and made time to hang out amidst all of your craziness. Would you introduce yourself to the fine folks at home? Tell them a little bit where you are, what you do, what I left out in my little introduction, and then we'll go back in time and find out more about your story.
Yeah, so I'm a dealership employee, work for Ford. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. The dealership's actually down in Bell Vernon, which is south of Pittsburgh. And I've been a tech for Ford for a while now. And I decided to go to high school tech and then ended up with Ford. And then I met my husband at Ford school and we got married. And now we both own the Chris and Jenny's garage as well.
Oh, that's right. I left that out entirely.
Right. Yeah. So we work together with that. And it's really great because Chris does most of the day-to-day running of the business, and I'll step in if there's something Ford related, or if there's a transmission that needs rebuilt, or for the state inspections, I'll inspect the vehicles as well. So, but we work hand in hand together, which is really cool. And then, the ASE thing, it was just like a crazy whirlwind of the past couple of years. I decided, one of my former teachers actually contacted me and asked if I would speak on a webinar for women in the industry. And it was hosted by the ASE Foundation. And then the next year, they asked if I would speak, be a presenter at the instructor conference. And it was down in Texas, and I went down, and I was so nervous, and there was like this crowd of like 500 people or so, all instructors at the instructor conference. Yeah. And I sat on a panel with other women, with Kat Trainer, she was leading it, and a bunch of other women. And that was like, I was so nervous, but I felt like it was so important to, maybe it would encourage another young girl to be in this industry. And I absolutely love this job. So it's such a great career. And I thought that if I had an opportunity to show a young girl that you can succeed in this industry, then I felt like it was really important for me to do that. So
absolutely. Was that your first time? Go ahead. Sorry.
I said I went up on stage, and once I started like asking questions and doing the thing, like it was such a topic that I was so passionate about. It was just really easy to do it. And then after that, I got asked to be, if I was interested in being on the board. And,
that's so awesome.
It just feels like so big, like I'm just amazed.
It is. It's huge. No, it's a huge honor. I'm so curious. Was that like your first time you had the panel, and then at the ASE Foundation, you were on the panel there? Had that been your first time like doing any sort of like public speaking or like, stuff on?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. How did they find you originally? I mean, up until this point, you were just kind of like doing the damn thing, just kicking butt at the dealership and running your shop with your husband and doing all the rest. How did they find you?
Well, it was my high school tech teacher. He was the first teacher I ever had through automotive, Mr. Yoder. But he, I think he's on the ASE board. He's not on the board. He's a field manager for the ASE Foundation.
Okay.
So he's also, I'm not sure. He was a president of the Greater Pittsburgh like Auto Dealers Association. So he was always like in and out of the dealerships and making sure students get, places in this industry, and like making sure his students were, getting their places in college or seeing how they were doing in the dealership. And he's been great for I think making that connection between student and career.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I think that whenever the ASE Foundation was looking for someone to, do you know women that would be interested in doing this webinar? Of course, he thought of me and came and asked me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool to be recognized like that.
Heck yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
We've got a question from our viewers, and I'd want to dig back into time a little bit, but I want to bring this up real quick while we're still on the topic of this. But so Kenneth is asking if your Ford dealership that you work at, if they feel like there's any conflict of interest with you working with your husband at the independent shop that you own, and how have you navigated that? Because I think that's a lot of technicians deal with that sort of challenge.
Right. I mean, some dealerships make you sign, conflict of interest clauses and stuff like that. And I think that whenever I got hired at my current dealership, I was already an established technician. I went in there and they opened me with big wide open arms. They had been, I think they said that it was a year that they had gone without a transmission tech at that time, and that I was really in high demand. So whenever I went in there, I was like, listen, I got other stuff going on. I was like, the dealership is far enough from where my husband does his work that we're not stealing customers from them. Another thing is also we do a lot of older vehicles that the customers wouldn't necessarily come to the dealership. Stuff that's 20 years old, 25, 30 years old, and it's rusty. And my husband's welding, stuff back together on these vehicles, or doing body work, and that doesn't really overlap with my dealership job as well. So there's that part of it. And then there's a different manager now than whenever I started, but and when the new manager got hired, I was like, listen, this isn't going to be a problem, right? I'm worried about it, because that is a definite concern,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
From a dealership standpoint, it definitely makes sense for it to be a concern. Is this person going to be stealing work from us, or spending time and resources at work, doing their own thing instead of working on our stuff, and
or utilizing our resources to make their own money out of the dealership. I think the way you lined it out to them of these are all the reasons why I'm not competition for you and that they're not competitive interests. I think is so key. If you had a Ford specialty shop right around the corner, that might be a little more of an issue.
and I definitely keep anything that if I would need to use dealership resources, which would be the state inspections. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do that, at the after hours, and make sure I have an RO written up, and I'm paying for the stickers and paying for the stuff that they want me to pay for. So it's that's mutually beneficial a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely not in their way,
That's cool. It's awesome. Just the point that kind of got slightly glazed over or glossed over there, but the how in demand you were. And I think that's the reality that I think we forget about a lot in these industries. You were in so much demand as a transmission specialist, as an expert, as an established technician, that they're that's fine. We don't care. We need you.
Right.
I think that's the cool part of leverage we have.
Right. At that point, it was oh, you also happen to be a girl. That doesn't your qualifications, your certifications, your experience levels, those are the things that we need. So
that's awesome.
I finally reached the point where the fact that I'm female is a sidebar more than, how is this going to affect my shop?
I'm curious. Somebody asked me this week, and I was speaking at a conference, and I'm the way you phrase that makes me want to bring this up. He asked me, when was the first time I felt accepted by the industry, and where I went somewhere, and had I ever experienced a place where I went somewhere and it wasn't an issue? Was this the first time for you that you felt like that it was a non-issue?
No, that's not. This C. Harper is wonderful, but they were not the first time that I experienced that.
Nice.
So I've been at a couple different Ford dealerships. So the one previous to C. Harper was Davies, and whenever I worked down in their Connellsville location, Jim Davies and the managers down there at the time, they really saw my strengths. I wasn't a transmission tech yet at that point. I had, I had already completed my 2 years. I feel like I'm working backwards here.
You're fine. You're fine. We're just rolling with it. It's good.
Yeah. But I had most of my certifications to be a senior master tech through board. Okay. But I wasn't a transmission tech yet. Didn't really have much diesel experience either at that time. And I had some people that really were like, no, you're detail oriented. Like you pay it, you can like read through the instructions and not miss anything. And this is like, and they were like, we think that we need a transmission tech. They were like, we think that we can, train you to be a transmission tech. And it was a little bit difficult because like all the specialty tools were all, scattered because there hadn't been a transmission tech down there for some time. And we had to get some stuff and make do. And then it was a learning process. And man, was that difficult because, I mean, if you rebuild a transmission incorrectly, you don't know until you put it in the car and then it screws up again and then you have to take it back out. And that was very frustrating. And I had some very, very supportive people at the time that were like, no, we believe in you. We know you can do this. And we think that you're the best person for this job. And once you get it, you're going to be great. And they just like really were very patient with me. I know there was one, I never did figure out that transmission, but there was a construction van that was like very, very heavy, very loaded down. They had the big compressor in the back of the van. It was all loaded down with tools and parts, and it was probably overweight for what the transmission was rated for in the first place. But I rebuilt this transmission and put it back in, and it had no reverse. And then I did that again like 7 times. Oh no. And I was contacting, the Ford hotline, like, what did I miss? Like I replaced everything. Like, what do you need to do? And they said, you know what, it must be like a hairline fault in the case or something. Like, we're not sure. And they sent me a unit, and I never did figure out that transmission. Oh, but man. Like that just shows, how dedicated the management was at the time to like help me get through this rough patch, it's definitely a learning curve. And I didn't have a mentor there at the time. And I had gone through the transmission class through Ford School, through the ASE program. Yeah. But
that's a far cry from doing it full time.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time I was like, I don't want to be a transmission tech. I'm not going to do this, Right. And so I was paying attention in class, but then, life happened. And then I actually took like a year off and when I had my son, and I was going back after this, so it was like, I felt like I was out of practice and the class had been so long ago. But
that's a huge testament to the shop that you were at. 'Cause I feel like at a lot of shops, like even just having to redo it once, you'd be the butt of everybody's jokes for the next month.
Right.
Yeah. But to do it 7 times and still have people be like, that's okay, you got this, we have faith in you. That's huge.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So we've started in the present and worked our way back, but I do want to rewind a little bit because we talked about briefly your high school shop teacher, and sounds like he was just a huge ally and advocate for you. What made you take auto shop in high school? What was that experience like? Because that's 14 something years ago, you said that you've been a tech, or was it? I don't.
Yeah. Well, okay. I graduated 2009 from high school. Okay. So I had 3 years of auto tech in high school.
Okay. And what made you take auto tech?
Oh, what made me take auto tech? There we go.
Yeah.
Well, I had always been, I loved riding little quads and dirt bikes and stuff that my dad had got. And my dirt bike was always breaking down, didn't want to start. And if I wanted to ride, then I had to fix it. I had a really good system set up where I'd pull the spark plug out and squirt some gas in, and it just like minor stuff, but it gave gave me an interest in it. And then my mom actually from a family member got a 66 Mustang. And
Oh,
then, yeah, and then my dad and I rebuilt that car together, everything from,
oh,
you
cool.
know, tuning the engine to replacing suspension parts to,
Yeah,
putting new body panels on and painting it. We put new carpet in it. The
that's
headliner
awesome.
was fun. When I pulled the old headliner out, there was like a bunch of dead baby mice that like fell on my head. It was
Oh, that's fun.
fun. Yeah.
I've not
But the
experienced that
Mustang
one.
really, yeah. So the
That's
Mustang really
awesome.
got my foot into the door. And then my older cousin Dan was in automotive as well. And he would
Okay.
be talking with my uncle, my other cousins and stuff, and he sounded like he was speaking like a different language altogether. Like he would start talking about things and I would have no idea what any of it was. And I was like glued to it. Like I want to know what that is, and I
Interesting.
want to do that.
Yeah.
And I told my dad I wanted to go to auto school, and he's like, well, he's like, what your career should be what makes you happy. He
Mm.
said, if this is what's going to make you happy, then I think, then that's what you should do. He said, don't always expect it to be easy. He said, don't, it might be really difficult. It might not, you know, always be happy for you every day, but, in the beginning,
That's
um,
awesome. What a
but,
great answer.
yeah. Yeah.
That's a phenomenal, that's like the perfect answer. Dads, take note. That's a great answer.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure I was prepared for it to like,
Right. Like, yeah,
people
you got to be
might
real
not want
about
me
it.
there, or like it might be, I might get
Yeah.
harassed, or it might be difficult, but
Yeah. I think that's
yeah.
something a lot of guys, from what I like talk with men in the industry and fathers, like I think that's what people struggle with, is like, how do I both be supportive and encouraging, but also prepare them realistically for the fact that like
Right.
not everybody's gonna be welcoming, and it may not
Hmm.
always be an easy road. But like, that's a perfect response, Dad. Way to go, Dad.
Yeah, my parents are so great, but yeah, they were very supportive of me from the beginning.
That's
That
awesome.
they did. I mean, so I've heard some guys like try to warn the girls about how difficult it might be, but they like give it like horror stories. Like okay,
Right.
well, there's a line there where you're not trying to like scare people off,
Yeah.
And
I struggle with
yeah,
that too. It's a hard one because you do want to be honest, you want to be realistic. You want
right,
people to go in eyes wide open, but you also don't want to be scaring them, right? And you still want to
right,
be supportive. And I struggle sometimes even too with this podcast. Like I want to be open and real and talk about the crap, because there is crap, right? And if we don't
right,
talk about it, it'll never change. We'll never
right,
move past the bad stuff. But like trying
yeah,
to balance it out between like, yeah, there's crap and we want to change it, but we also really love it. And like it's a tough balance sometimes.
right, definitely. So, I was just talking about that earlier today about how, sorry, I'm trying to catch my train here. um, that, I mean, what was that thing?
We got you got the same squirrel brain as I do, huh?
Yeah, it might just be gone. I don't know.
That's right. You're
But
allowed. You're
yeah,
allowed.
just
The
that
balance.
right, the balance. So as a auto mechanic in the
Yeah.
beginning, it's difficult whether you're male or female. And
Yeah.
from a female's point of view, how do you separate, this is difficult because, or these people are being hard on me because I'm a girl, or this they're being hard on you because they're trying to teach you the right way to do things, and they're stressing the importance of the safety aspects of
Yes.
the industry itself, or making sure you don't screw up somebody's car and it's a safety issue. Like, so
Right.
there's, your mentors have to be kind of hard on you a little bit so that you learn the right processes and you do things correctly. And
Yeah.
so, are they being hard on you because you're a girl, or are they being hard on you because that's how they treat all young people? But
Right.
there's no way to tell the difference. And then there's also the difficulty of, they do treat you different like a girl, or there's sexual harassment and that thing too. So, but you can't tell what's what whenever you're first starting in this industry.
Absolutely. No, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you said that, and you said that perfectly. It's really true. It's hard to say. And sometimes I speak with young technicians, young female technicians, and they're complaining about something, they're like, oh, my shop is so sexist, they XYZ. And I'm like, oh, that's actually really pretty standard, right? Like that's normal. Like
Right.
they,
Yeah, that's
they're only
normal.
letting me do
Yeah.
oil changes. I've been there for 3 months and all I do is oil changes. So I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah, you're like, no, you got to start out at the
pretty
bottom.
normal.
They're not going to let you like do something major and screw something up before you can prove that you can do the
Right.
basics first. Like,
Totally. But I feel like it's an interesting thing. And I'm just like thinking about this as we're talking. Like I was talking with somebody this weekend about the development of apprenticeship programs and like creating kind of like a clear path for people to know. And I feel like that would answer and take that guesswork out of it. And like, I think
definitely.
for mentors out there or teachers out there or bosses, that if you know that you've got a young person who's starting out and you're training them, if you can prepare them for like, this is what this process looks like, this is totally normal, this is how all of our new people start, then you can eliminate that layer of, well, is this just because I'm a girl? And like, then they develop a chip on their shoulder because they think they're being treated different. And, just to like take that out of it and eliminate that by just telling them, people are cool with stuff if they know what to expect, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like that, like they're okay as long as they can see the path to success. Yeah. As long as they're like, yes, I'm not being pushed out, or I'm not, the black sheep that's like everybody's trying to get rid of, or something, If you can see the path, then you're okay if you're not starting, jumping ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. So I'm interested, getting back to your story. Sorry, we rabbit holed because I do that. Squirrel brain. So when you had that Mustang, you were doing body and paint and metal and mechanical. What made you choose mechanical as the path you wanted to go down versus the other stuff? Was it just like you were just drawn to it more, or what made you go down that direction?
Well, actually, I had thought about motorcycle mechanic as well.
Okay.
And then I had thought I was really into art. I thought about doing body shop for the art aspect. And my decision to do, automotive mechanics was strictly career based. I wasn't going after, the high risk. I might make it as like a detailed, like airbrushing stuff on cars like that's like a specialty position where you have to be a really good artist to do it. And like you might or might not get the amount of work you want to get or get in the shop you want to get in. And the same thing with motorcycle mechanics in Pennsylvania. You only get so many months to ride. That's fair. Then what about the rest of the year? You know what I mean? Like, and then the motorcycle, I knew I wanted to go to college because I wanted to get certifications. I wanted to get, a more direct career path. I wanted more of a chance of succeeding if I was going to pick one brand and know it in and out, so that whenever customers or, other people I worked with or whoever was going to be like, you don't know what you're talking about, I could be like, actually, I really, really do. And I thought that if I went independent shop or, something else, that I might like to know everything about general mechanics. It's such a broad spectrum that you can have people question you and you don't know the answer. You're like, well, I have to go look it up. But I wanted to, be very, very confident. So I knew I wanted to pick a brand, and my dad had like 4 Fords and 5 Fords in the driveway at the time. It just made sense for me. But
okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to, do the college, and I wanted to get certifications. And my dad, he always stressed about, keep up with your training even later on in life, and keep up with and get as many certs as you can, because and continue your training. And that's really going to help your career.
Yeah, I feel like that was the big thing for me too, because I kind of did the same path. It was like I knew that people were going to question me,
right?
Or at least, I felt like people were going to question me as a woman,
right?
And and I was right, but my fear was founded. But but I wanted to go into a brand. I wanted to know it. I wanted to have all the certifications, and I feel like, for no matter what you feel about various certifications, people like ASE, some people don't like ASE, whatever. Like for me, I felt like that was how I got people to realize that I was serious. right? Like having the
Definitely.
certifications, having the graduate program, all of that was like, no, like for real, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the credibility piece. So Ford was because dad was into Ford. And that's why
Yeah.
Ford versus a different manufacturer.
Yeah. And my
Okay.
dad, he was never like the die hard Ford guy. He was
Uh-huh.
just like, well, I already have half the parts and half the tools I need to work on it. I already know what I'm looking at if I stick with Ford, so I might as well do that. And
That's
his
fair.
dad had, Thunderbird, and
Yeah,
his dad was a Ford guy at
that's
times,
cool.
so it just kind of made sense.
So were
Yeah,
you
he
always
wasn't.
this pragmatic of a person? Like seeing the path and like what's going to be my best odds of success? Like was that just always you looking at things that way?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of my personality is like, okay, well, I'm gonna think my way through this and make sure that I'm gonna reach all my goals.
Yeah.
I'm not setting goals that are unreachable. It's not. There's no hopes and dreams that are so far in the future, or
Yeah.
that they're not going to be reachable. I'm gonna stick 5-year plan and under, and I'm gonna hit all
Yeah.
those goals.
No, I love it. You were very intentional. You were very clear about it and you wound up creating like, a path for yourself to give yourself success and look at you now.
Yeah.
And Ford's a great program. I did the baby version of Ford. So Asset is there for those who don't know at home. Explain what the Ford Asset program is because that's what you went to after high school, right?
Right. I absolutely love the Ford Asset program. Because it was close enough. It was at a community college, so it
Okay.
was close enough that I could drive there from my parents' house and not have to pay for tuition and worry about that. So I got little sidebar. I had wanted an F-150, and I had
Okay.
wanted it at 95 F-150. It's exactly what I wanted, but instead I got a Ranger because I thought I'm going to be driving like an hour to school every day. I was like, I better, get a better gas mileage vehicle. And so it was close to home, and then it's a 2-year program where you can work your way through schooling. So a
Okay.
lot of automotive programs, you go sit in a college setting, and then they kick you out into the world afterwards, and then
Right.
you have to
Yeah.
try to find a job. Well, with the Ford Asset program, you would get sponsored by a Ford dealer and work like 3 months in the Ford
Oh,
dealer or whatever, and then work 3 months, and then go 3 months at school, and then 3 months at Ford. So it's like you go back and forth between
interesting.
working and full time school, and
Okay.
so it felt like it gives you the most hands on experience and the most like true shop experience of what it's really like to be, in a dealer atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, and what it's actually truly going to be like working in the back of the shop, and um, getting, I think, hands-on experience, I think, is the most valuable part of that as
Yeah.
well.
That's
Because it
awesome.
gives you
That's
confidence while you're also, learning about stuff that you might not, even if you just work hands-on and just do the experience part of it and don't do college, then okay, well, you might not ever learn about like the true theory behind some of how these systems work. So you might watch somebody replace a part and know how to do the step-by-step procedure to do that, but you don't know the theory behind how it all works, and that's key in diagnosing it easier. If you truly understand how it works, it's easier to diagnose it.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. I did not realize that Asset was set up that way. That's very similar to what like they do in Canada with their journeyman, perhaps their apprenticeship program. It's kind of like back and forth between school and hands-on. And I've always wished that there was more of
Right.
that in the United States. I didn't know Ford did that. That's fantastic.
And what's amazing, I mean, it was a 2-year degree, but it was like a fourth of the cost of some of the other automotive programs that would have
That's
been,
awesome.
9 months, or some of them were longer. But I know that whenever I was in school, there was, a Wyotech program that was 9 months, but it would cost like 4 times or 5 times as much.
Yeah.
And
You had to get
it was just crazy.
sponsored though to do this through a Ford dealership, or did you
Right. But
get connected with the dealership after you started school, or did you have to find the sponsor first?
well, actually, my high school teachers actually were a big part of that. I mean,
Nice.
but they helped me, say, hey, there's, job shadowing at these dealerships, or there's this asset program if you're interested in it, and there was connections between, the high school teachers and the dealer managers, trying to get their students placed well.
Yeah.
And so the dealer managers were aware of what the training program was, and they were encouraged, to hire on future students, so that they could get the job they wanted.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So
I'm just noticed that, like, there was a question from Brad was asking, as a male automotive instructor, how can I best encourage any female students to finish the program they're in and get their degree? And I think, like, you just answered that so perfectly without knowing it, like, by being
okay.
involved, right? Like,
Right. I mean,
your teachers were
so
involved.
yeah, I actually went to the first. I had actually got a job at a Honda dealer because I had in high school. My future. I'm not sure if I picked the asset program yet, or if I was still, like a junior and wasn't really thinking about college
Okay.
yet at that point. But I was told that there was a job shadowing position available at the Honda dealership. And I was like, okay, cool. I need to see what the shop's all about. I need to see what the shop atmosphere is like to see if I'm going to be really uncomfortable, if I'm going to like it or what. And whenever I showed up for the job shadowing interview, the interview changed halfway through. And it was like, so you can answer phones and type up things on the computer. And the interview changed as soon as they saw me. And then I ended up being a service cashier for evenings, which as a high school student, it was nice to have, a summertime position or, an evening position or weekend position. I was like, okay, cool. I came in here for a free, like, job shadow thing and ended up with a job. But at the same time, I was like, well, this isn't really what I wanted. And I didn't really get to see much of the shop atmosphere because I wasn't really there when the shop was open. I was like the nighttime customers come pick up their car person. So, like, it wasn't really what I was looking for, but I was like, okay, well, at least I have my foot in the automotive door, And then I decided to do the asset program, and I got hired on at Latrobe Chevy and Ford, and again I went in there to interview for their mechanic position, and they said, well, it looks like you have experience answering phones. And I was like, well, yeah, but let me be a tech. And so they said they did tell me that I had to be 18 years old to be in the shop, which I think is some bogus crap. But I mean, maybe their insurance would be give them a hard time about it. I don't know. But I ended up being like the sales room, receptionist or greeter. I was a greeter.
I hate that they do that to girls so much.
And I hate it so much. But you know what? Would I have got in this industry without that? I don't know. I was probably hard-headed enough. I probably would have still become a mechanic either way. Somebody would have had to let me in. I would have kept knocking on that door, But I know some girls, they just, I think that roadblock there would definitely sway some girls. Okay, well, whatever, I have a job, And maybe I don't need to be in the shop, or, I don't,
Yeah, or they wind up stuck there for years on end and, like, keep trying to break in and they keep getting held back. I've definitely heard that story often. It's just it just amazes me that is still, like, happening in this day and age. We need techs so badly that shops are like, yeah, we desperately need technicians, but you can answer phones.
But only certain ones. Like, okay, thanks. So whenever I went to my first semester, he did let me in the shop. And I did go back in the Ford garage for, the 3 months, the summertime, basically, And then when school started at the asset program at the community college, I went for the 2 months, 3 months, whatever the first semester length was. And whenever I went to come back to the dealer, they said that they were too slow and they couldn't keep me on full time. If I wanted to come in a couple days a week, maybe I could do that. But they said, we don't have the work for you here. So I immediately called my tech teachers, my high school tech teachers, and was like, what do I do? I'm going to lose my Ford sponsor. And they said, we know the manager, it's males, go up there and talk to him. And, like, well, like I got you an interview, basically. You know, I mean, they didn't get me they couldn't, promise me a job, of course.
Sure.
But so I walked in and he goes, "You look just like your picture." And I'm like, like, that's not why you're hiring me, right? Like, but I was like, also, it was like the Chevy manager. And I was like, listen, I don't this is nice, but I don't need to be over in the other building. I need to be over in Ford. Like, you're just like interviewing me because the teacher, and but I'm going over there, right? And so I did get the job at the Smales location. I was there for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yay for involved high school shop teachers who helped make all of those connections and happen. And I'm so glad that there was at least a dealership nearby that was not going to insist on putting you in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that once I was in that shop the first time, I was like, no, look, on paper, I did this. So here's proof that I didn't,
Yeah, like, I'm serious. I'm taking the class
or something. I don't know. like I'm really serious about this,
Yeah, definitely. The Ford program. So I did a tiny version of the Ford program because I went to UTI and they had like a Ford fact program, which was like 3 weeks long. It was like the little baby version of what you did. But I was so blown away by the training that they had. Like, I feel like I went through UTI, I learned electronics, I learned some diagnostics, but learned a lot of theory, like you said, like, and the theory is so, so important. You're so dead on. Like, that's
right.
You can be a great mechanic if you don't know the theory, but to be like a tech doing diagnostics, like, you really need to understand the theory behind it. But it wasn't until I took the Ford fact program that I really, like, the electrical really clicked in and made sense because they did such a great job of teaching it, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that they really did do a good job at just like explaining things. Yeah, I did see, so in keeping up with my Ford training, there's no longer a Pittsburgh location to go to if I would need, they come up with updated classes that I have to go to. So I occasionally have to travel, either to Cleveland or to Exton, PA. I've had some of my coworkers go up to Buffalo, New York, to go to these Ford classes that you would need to keep up with your certifications. Yeah. And so there's a UTI building, I think, is where the Exton location is.
Oh, that's where they have the classes.
PA. Okay. Right, the classes. And then there's always posters and all this stuff about the FACT program. So I think that it is really a popular program.
It's a good one. They really encourage all of their students to take it. And I definitely, if anybody happens to be watching this or listening to this and you're going to tech school and you have the opportunity, like, even if you don't plan on working on Fords, like, I knew that I wasn't going to go into Ford. I was like, had my heart set on BMW, nothing against Fords. But like, just to take the class was so worth it. If you have the opportunity, take it. It is such a good program. And no, they are not one of our sponsors for this podcast. I'm generally saying that. And just to be clear, I only take on sponsors that I can genuinely stand behind. So yeah, great program if you have the opportunity to do it. So now you're in your job. So you go through this program. I guess I should ask, like, what was the program like for you in the schooling? Like, how were you the only girl there? What was the school experience like? How were the teachers there? Like, obviously your high school teachers were super supportive. How were the college instructors?
They were a little bit tougher on me, I guess. And maybe not. It's hard to kind of gauge them.
Yeah.
They I feel like they didn't have as much patience for me goofing off, or if I would be up too late the night before or like nod off in the afternoon in class or something. They were just like, no, like you chose this, dummy, like, pay attention. I'm like,
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. Or if like I didn't do really well in class because I was distracted or one reason or another. I mean, I was dating one of the guys in class. So I ended up marrying. So I mean, I was distracted a little bit maybe, but and I had told myself that I wasn't going to date any of the guys in class because I was like, okay,
Right.
these are the friends only. Like, I'm not dating
Yes.
any of these people. Like, I'm serious about my career, and I'm not letting a stupid boy derail me.
Right.
And then I met my husband, and he's just been super like supportive of me the entire time.
You can't control when you fall in love, and clearly it was not
No.
just like some silly fling. Like this was your person. So you just happened to meet him in school.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. All right.
Whenever
fair
I
enough.
met him, oh gosh, he had this F-250 that was a diesel, and it was a stick shift, and he would sometimes it wouldn't start, and he would like start it down a hill and then like pop the clutch and like start his truck. It was like, I don't know. I thought it was
And that's what did it for you. That were
it
like,
was a
that's
little,
the man I'm
like,
gonna marry.
well, it was super redneck, but he lived in the middle of the city, and it was super confusing to me. So I think I was like, how did I find a country boy in the middle of the hood? I can understand.
Oh, I love it. And that's the moment she knew, guys. That's the moment she knew.
No, it was the moment whenever I was on the back of a street bike with a dirt bike tire, and I was holding on to him, and I was like, "Oh God, don't fall down!" Like,
I love it. That is fantastic. Okay, so we worked backwards, we worked forwards. I think we've met in the middle. You were at the one shop for 5 years, and then became the transmission tech, and now you're at where you're currently at. Did we miss any major blocks in there?
just like a little timing in the middle there, where I mean, I did the 5 years with Smale, and then I had my son Cam, and when I got pregnant with Cameron, then the shop didn't want me. They I think that they had an issue with, they were worried about insurance with me being pregnant in the shop, maybe, or they were trying to get me to, I remember they wanted doctor's notes that said it was okay to work in the shop. And my doctor was like, I'm not a mechanic. What do you even do all day? Give me like MSDS sheets for like power steering fluid. I'm like, everything says it causes cancer on there. Like, I don't know. What do you want from me? Like, it says it like causes what do you call it? Reproductive harm.
Reproductive, yeah.
But like, is that if you drink it? Or if like, if you get it on your skin or in your eyeball, like at what point, like, can I just wear gloves and it'll be okay? Or like not? And I didn't know how to answer any of those questions. And then they were just like, listen, like, we're just not playing any games. Like, you can't be in the shop anymore.
Oh, wow.
And then I interviewed for their, like, the customer care center position, which was kind of like their call center for all of for their big dealer group. And I hated it. They thought that I would be really good at it because of my automotive background, and then like me being able to talk to people on the phone and all the receptionists.
Yeah, all your history answering phones. Yeah.
So they thought that I would be okay at it, and I thought I did okay. But man, I hate it. And then I stayed at home with my son because my husband wanted me to, and I am not a homebody, and I was not happy. And I couldn't wait to get back to this career. So yeah.
How about with your daughters? You're younger, right?
Yes.
Did you stay working when you were pregnant with her?
Oh yeah. Whenever I was down at Davies down in Connellsville, I said that, hey, listen, I would like to work through part of my pregnancy, if not as like a good portion of it. I was like, sure. But what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? This is what I want. What's going to actually happen, you know? And Jim Davies was so great. He said, you can work through as much of it as you want. You know, if you need help picking something up, we'll get somebody to help you. You know, he's very supportive.
That's awesome.
And I worked up until I was 6 months pregnant with Rose. That was what my husband's cutoff was, kind of thing. Like he would rather I didn't work through the whole pregnancy with that job. So I just kind of worked it out with the owner of the dealership and said, you know, this is where I'm at. Is this okay with you? And he was like, yeah, that's great. And then that's awesome. He said, after you have Rose and you go through your maternity leave, he said, why don't you come back? He says, and then he ended up selling that location, and he had a second location. He said, well, I want you to come to the second location. And it was like, I had, you know, the 3 months off with the maternity leave, and I had a C-section. And 2 months in, he was like, come back. When are you coming back? Like, I need you. He's like, like calling me like every other, like not every other day, but it was like, when you
Felt
coming
like
back?
it.
He's like, I really need you, you know. He's like, I'm excited for you to come to this location, you
Aw.
know.
Oh, that had to feel so
Um,
good.
yeah, it was so good, and
That's
yeah, it was nice. And then going back to work was like kind of like a little bit of a relief, and kind of like really hard at that time too, because I had, you know, like a new baby at home, and then like a toddler, and you know, it was just very chaotic, and
yeah. And
it
did
was a
you guys have the shop at that point too?
um
Or did that come later? Because
uh,
that's a lot to
you
juggle.
know,
My gosh.
the shop might have got started in like 18, and Rose was born in 18. So I think
Oh, dang.
right along, yeah. I think we started the shop
So,
right during that all. And
so
then
you
Jim
added a
Davies
new
wanted me
child
to,
and a new shop at the same
yes.
time.
And then I was their sole transmission tech again. And then the diesel guy quit. And then so I went and got more Ford training done to be like a diesel master tech through Ford as
Oh my
well.
gosh.
And then he wanted me to get, you know, my medium duty or heavy duty truck inspection license so that he could sell the bigger trucks as well. And I went and did that.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was just juggling so much at that time.
Yeah,
And
I don't know how you
at that time,
that's insane.
I was making good money too, because it was like I was making a lot of hours, and I was really proud of that. You know,
Yeah.
I was doing transmission rebuilds, and then you know the F-150s have some of the engines had, there was a big rush of phaser jobs that came in. You know, the DCT
Mhm.
phasers on the camshafts. So those jobs, you know, would pay, and I could do them in like half the time.
Nice.
You know, and then the my manager at the time would, he'd be like, oh, I scheduled 2 for today, you know, like, and then he'd also like, I'm running around like diagnosing stuff, and there were
Oh
some
my
other
gosh.
techs there that weren't Ford trained, and they needed help with diagnosing stuff as well, and I felt like I was like running around doing everything, and at
How
the same time like the kids were crazy, and it was just so much.
that's and starting a new business with your husband all at the same time. How
Right.
holy bejesus, how did you survive all of that? That's
Well, I kind of
insanity.
didn't. I started dyeing my hair real bright colors and going a little crazy. So
Through a
it got to
phase,
the
that's
point
cool.
where I got a stomach ulcer from the stress.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, and because I would go in early, and I would stay till like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and then drive. It was like almost a half an hour to drive home. And then I was dealing with like the kids stuff then at that point too. And it was just so much. And like I felt really confident in my abilities at the time, but it was also that I somebody had told me um, that the C Harper dealership would pay me a lot more, and they had an air conditioned shop, and I wouldn't have to work on the big trucks anymore. And like I didn't mind working on the bigger stuff or the diesels, but it is definitely harder on your body. And then when
Sure.
you do the bigger work, the super duties, the big stuff, you get fleet vehicles where the people come in with, you know, 6 inches of mud caked and dried underneath their truck.
Right.
And it's like everything's dirty, and then there's salt trucks that are like completely rusted out. And then there's mud packed underneath then there's rust flakes. And it's like not only is this like not only are the parts heavier, but like nothing wants to come apart. And so you're
Yeah.
always using torches and really sledgehammers, and
Yeah, it's a lot.
it's just
That's
it's
why
just
I
harder
don't
work.
work in the Northeast anymore. I'm from New York originally, and that
Yeah.
is why I
And
left the
the salt, the rust
Northeast.
belt. Yeah.
Yes, that is why right there. I do not envy you that. So, did you know that you were maxing yourself out, and then like the ulcer was like, yeah, you're like proof, or were you just kind of like so in the zone and just juggling all the things and like pure adrenaline, and then the ulcer was like, hey girl, you need to stop. Like, how
Yeah.
did that
Yeah. I think
happen?
I think I was like in the zone dealing with everything. Might have been, and then I had to realize I didn't know how to take care of a stomach ulcer, so I had to figure that out, what to cut
Who
out.
does?
And
Yeah.
apparently I had been drinking a lot of energy drinks and alcohol and just to manage my way through it all that
Yeah.
apparently and then I didn't know some stuff had like acid in it or was like citric. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know things
Right.
were acidic. I didn't know chocolate was acidic. What is that? Like, milk chocolate
Right.
doesn't taste like an orange. Like I don't understand this.
Right. And
So
those
like
are
I
like
had to
all the
fix my
things that we
diet up a
live
little
off
bit. Yeah.
of. Right. Like, and when
Yeah.
we're stressed and we're doing too many things, that's the stuff that we live off of. We're like, oh, energy
Yeah. The
drinks, chocolate,
comfort food
caffeine.
stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Crazy. Also, you know what's crazy is I just looked at the freaking time. How are we almost done with our hour already?
Oh no.
What is going on? These hours go way too fast. This is not fair. So I want to talk a little bit. There's so much more to talk about with you. My goodness, you've got such a rich story and so many interesting perspectives. I love it. Your career has been fantastic. Tell me about the work that you do with the ASE Education Foundation. And I know a lot of people don't really necessarily know what the Education Foundation is, but like, what do you get to do sitting on the board with them? And what has that been like?
Well, it's just been like a whirlwind. And also I'm not an educator myself. So, but I've been to every single one of the schools. Like my high school tech was ASE accredited, and so I've had firsthand experience with what these programs, like the standards that the ASE Education Foundation puts in place for these schools, really made my story easy because there was a clear path of education that made it so that I was fully well-rounded before I even wanted to figure out which part of the industry I wanted to go into. And that's just so important. And so being on the board is like, I feel so out of place. Like there's all these crazy important people. And I just feel like I work on cars, but they said they keep stressing about how important it is to have someone who's working in the field to be their voice. You know what I mean? Have a voice in those meetings and to say, well, this doesn't quite make sense,
Yeah.
or the industry doesn't need this as much. Like from, um, aftermarket standpoints or this, the people that are on the board with me have an automotive background, but it looks a lot different than my day-to-day
Sure.
life.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
having my input is really valuable to them. And I feel so valued whenever I'm there. I thought I would feel out of place or feel as though I was less than in some way. I don't know why I thought that. But they have really they welcomed me with open arms. And
Yeah.
it makes it feel like so important what I do there. And
It is. It
yeah.
is. That's awesome. And I get it. Like I get that like fear of, am I going to be a fish out of water? Am I going to be, is this out over my head or out of
Right.
my league or whatever? But I mean, I think from everything that you've shared with your story thus far is like you're a product of the benefits of the ASE Foundation and the work that they do to help the schools, to help the teachers, to help
Definitely.
employers be connected with the schools. I think that's a lot of the things that like people don't realize that ASE Foundation does is like connecting. Like, okay, I know I need to hire an apprentice. How do I find them? How do I connect with the high school or the trade school to get somebody
Yeah.
in my shop and what that looks like? And you're the product of it. Like you experience the good, the bad, what worked, what didn't work. You're perfect for it. That's awesome. Are
Right.
there pet projects? Are there things that you guys are working on that you can share or brag on or tell us about from the foundation?
Um so the last couple meetings, the last meeting we went to, it was concentrating a lot on, body stuff, body shop,
Okay.
in the
Okay.
body programs. But they've also been trying to figure out how to, get more schools on board,
Mm,
with this ASE program. And, you know, how to show them what the value of the ASE accreditation really is. And So that's kind of where we've been, trying to figure out, okay, do people know what the ASE Foundation is? You know what
I
I
don't think a
mean?
lot of people
And
do.
right. And ways to get, their message out there of how important they are and, what they do for the industry. I mean, that's been really important to like, okay, well, if you become an ASE accredited shop, or if your school is ASE accredited, does everybody know that? And do they know what that means if you put their logo up or you put
Right.
their
What are the
banner up?
benefits? What comes along with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like it's the most common thing that I feel like we talk about at automotive conferences, at events. We're going to be talking about it at APEX. We're going to be talking about it at SEMA. We're talking about it at every event that we go to is like, okay, so how do we get more technicians? And why do we
Right.
have such a poor rate of people staying in the industry? Like we get kids in school, we get them in the high school programs, we get them in the college programs. But
Right.
then I heard a number this past weekend at the conference I was at that like 44% of the students don't stay with the industry after like 4 years. I'm like,
Right.
"Oh my gosh, that or even go into the industry at all after high school or college." I'm like, "That's
Right.
horrible. That's a horrible
So
number," right?
right. So
Like
we had
ASE
a
is
big
trying to combat
conversation
that.
about that. Yeah, we had a big conversation about that in the one of the meetings I was just at, where it was like, okay, well, if the high school program that they're going to isn't ASE accredited, that opens up these teachers to be able to they have more time on their schedule to teach some other side programs that aren't
Okay.
strictly automotive career related. So
Mm,
maybe that might include like a fun project, like go-kart racing or working on tractors or something else,
okay.
that
Okay.
that would be maybe relevant for
Yeah.
a tech shop to teach. But it doesn't leave enough time for the teachers to do all the steps so that the students are well prepared for this industry. So
Right.
I then we're talking about how to, make the education that they're getting the most valuable that they can have, and so
Yeah.
that they're the most prepared for the industry. If they're not prepared for the industry, then they don't know what they're walking into when they go into it, then you lose
Yeah.
a lot of people there.
Yeah.
um they were talking about that with the body shops,
Yeah.
for
It's an issue
automotive. It
on
was
all
fascinating.
sides.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were saying that students, they want to go to auto body because they like how my thought of it was, oh, I'm gonna get to like airbrush, dragons on
Right, which
motorcycles
is
and
not what it
classic
is.
cars, and that is a part of this industry that is really cool, but it's
Sure.
not the career path for most students. So
No.
like, if it's not like it is one of the more high risk, um plans, if that's your whole goal and your whole career
Right.
path,
And that might be a
it
go to art school thing, not a go to collision school. Because collision school and body
yeah,
shop, like that's a very different thing.
definitely. So I mean,
That's
having the
interesting.
school have the right curriculum so the students are the most prepared they can be, which I felt
Yeah.
so prepared to go to
Yeah.
college. I felt like I wasn't walking into something where I didn't know what it was after my high school experience, and I feel like that's so valuable.
Yeah. I think it's the training getting you prepared, like knowing what you're getting into, and then it's all those other pieces of like having the connections with dealerships and shops and all of that. Like it's all part of the puzzle. I think that's like a lot of the magic that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize with ASE, that it is like it's not just the certification patch on your sleeve. It's the like
Right.
how do we get people into the industry and keep them in the industry and make sure they're successful in the industry.
Right.
And
And I mean,
that's
and that
huge.
the certifications, it can get some people into this industry in the first place. It might put
Yeah.
them on the map. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's important all the way around, but that bridge in between school and career, that's something that they're always constantly working on and trying
Yeah.
to make new pathways and make it better, because there are so many students that are they make it a year in the industry and then that's it, or
Yeah.
not even that. And
Yep.
that's such a shame, because they're trying to figure out where that breakdown is too. Is it shop owner culture or atmosphere, or is that something that can be worked with? You know what I mean? Is that something that you talk to the right people and pull the right strings and
Yeah.
and fix it somehow?
I feel like that's like a whole nother hour-long conversation, and maybe we need to have a part 2 of this. Like, maybe we need to do, like, another little, like, panel discussion type thing specifically talking about this and have you back on and, like, do some more talk about this, 'cause I'd love to dig into all of that with you. I think it'd be really cool. But since we are
Yeah.
already over an hour, and I know you have children who are probably, like, wanting to see you, and a husband who is probably very excited for you to be done with this, I wanna be respectful of your time. So we're gonna wrap this up. You have had a phenomenal career. You're super inspiring, and I'm so glad that you were able to take some time out of your day to hang out with me. Thank you so very much, Jenny. This has been a ton of fun. You're great. Thank you.
It was
so
so
much.
wonderful to meet you.
We're going to talk more. This is not the end. We are talking more. We're going to hang out more. And I'm going to be in Pittsburgh soon. So I want to meet you in real life. I think it'll be really awesome. So
That'd be so cool.
until then, thank you so much. And folks at home, thank you guys all so much for coming and hanging out with us for this last a little bit over an hour. Sorry, I always go long. I'm so sorry. But we appreciate you hanging out with us. I hope you guys enjoyed meeting Jenny as much as I did. I will have in the description down below a link to Jenny's social media on TikTok, on Instagram. Make sure you go follow her, check her out, show her some support for everything that she is doing. And then, of course, there will also be links so you can get your butts registered to go to AAPEX if you're in the automotive industry in any capacity. AAPEX is the place that you need to be. So go get registered for that. And of course, there is also a link for the ASE Education Foundation, so you can find out more about all of this stuff that we've been talking about and all that ASE does to help not only bring kids into the industry, but help make sure that they're successful like Jenny has been, and have an amazing career like she has. So go check them out as well. And of course, every Wednesday, come on back to YouTube, to Facebook, for another live episode of the With Her Two Hands podcast. And every Monday, we release an archive episode. So 2 times a week, you get an episode of With Her Two Hands. And of course, you can listen anytime on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Until next time, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Bye, guys.